Hello, this is the G-Man of EAP because my opinion is just that interesting. Today I'm joined by...
The Blue Ranger.
He's the Blue Ranger today. He's gone by many names on this channel. Today he's going to be the Blue Ranger.
The Blue Ranger.
Today we're here to talk about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, if you can't tell. So, Blue Ranger, what was something that you liked about the new Ninja Turtle movie?
I want to say, first of all, I think the most important thing that we can say about this is we're both in our mid-20s and stuff. We grew up with the Ninja Turtles. Doesn't matter what kind of movie this was. Doesn't matter how good or bad it was.
It was going to be...
We're going to be biased.
If it was awful, it was going to be the best movie ever. If it was the best movie ever, it was going to be the best movie ever.
So we're biased. Saying that right off the bat, we are biased in every way, shape, and form. Is this the greatest movie ever made?
No.
No. Is it the complete cinematic abortion it was destined to be?
No.
No, it wasn't. And I'll tell you what, the first thing that I liked about it was that no matter how undeveloped it was, no matter how shallow a lot of it was concise. And I think
that... It was only like an hour and a half, wasn't it?
It's like an hour and 40 minutes at the most.
Right.
And it never once felt boring.
No.
I would say it took a little bit to get going, given the fact that we're like thrown into like the April O'Neil stuff that we don't care about.
Nope.
But it's concise, and it's an hour and 40 minutes that goes by like that. Like Megan Fox, who we were all not excited to see as April O'Neil. No. I don't know if it's a good performance or if it's in comparison to her entire body of work. But it's serviceable. Yeah. It's passable, and I think she has this weird kind of... I don't want to say chemistry with with Will Arnett. I don't want to even say chemistry, but I don't know if it's more him than her. But they bounce off each other well, and it's entertaining to a point. I mean, it's...
regardless of her reputation that she's had, I've always found her to be somewhat likable in movies. Like when she's not, if she's not in a scene with Shia LaBeouf in the Transformers movies, because he is a god awful character in that. She's okay, and then in this too, like I'm okay with it.
I think she's finally getting a chance to not play Megan Fox.
Right.
She's playing April O'Neil.
She's not playing the hot chick. She's
not playing the hot chick.
Yeah, she's playing April O'Neil.
So what?
Right.
The other big thing I loved about it was the four of them. They were perfectly casted.
Yeah.
The voice work was great. Just the brotherhood between the four of them was perfect.
Okay, my thing I loved about it, naturally, was not just the effects, but the visuals of the movie. I think the Turtles look great. They get a lot of crap, but I think the Turtles look great. I still think the designs of them, their costumes, are way too loud.
Yeah. Michelangelo
and Raph both have glasses hanging from their body that they never use, but they never lose them. In this whole, 2-hour long, or however long it was for them, this huge adventure, they never lose them.
Well, there's that scene on the hill where Raphael flips into that truck.
Yeah.
You see his glasses, like, bobble up and down in slow motion. You're like, you don't have ears. They're going to fall off.
Yeah. They're in his bandana thing, but they should be gone. Yeah. However, I think they look great. What's really impressive is how they managed to do all this action stuff with these mocap suits. I've never ever seen anything like this before. There's a part where Raph's fighting the Shredder, and he gets knocked on his back, and the shell is still there. And it looks really cool because they did mocap not just the walking and talking, but all the action scenes with these shells on their backs.
Well, and it's pretty seamless because you have the actors when they are doing the mocap.
Yeah.
The guys who actually play the Turtles when they're doing the mocap. Then you have the stunt guys, who are doing most of the action stuff. And then you have just when they're just 100% animated.
Yeah.
And there's never a point where you're like, notice the transition where it looks like it's no longer, a guy motion capturing. It's like a guy animating.
Yeah, and this is why I think this is a really, naturally, it doesn't look nearly as good as it does in the Planet of the Apes movies, but I think this is a great direction to take special effects because you can do stuff like that. You can do things that are mostly computer generated, but there's still life to it because there's real faces behind it, kind of like the way they did Avatar. I also really like the Shredder. Now, I'm going to get into the origin stuff in a second, but I love the way the Shredder looked, the fact that they when I first saw production photos of him and they had like the art, I was not so sure about it because he was just covered in knives and he had that big bladed cape, which he didn't have in the movie.
No.
And I'm like, this is a little much, but it works because it's a very big, overblown movie. Like
well,
with the way the turtles look.
You couldn't have a regular guy in armor fighting 6 foot tall.
Yeah, because the turtles in this
they're
are like,
bigger. Shredder.
The turtles are massive. They're super strong in this, which does defeat the whole idea of them being ninjas, being stealthy, and being agile. But
they do a little bit of ninja. They do quite a bit.
And I don't
think
that I don't think they could have done the mocap the way they did if they were the same size as the actors.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that with all the tech and with their shells, they take up more space.
Yeah.
Because I remember when they first showed production, not production photos, but like behind the scenes photos. When they first showed behind the scenes photos of the actors on set, they had those big ass shells.
Yeah.
I remember like, how are they gonna look? And then they managed to make the turtles bigger to compensate for that. So it ended up working out fine. So like just the way it looks, like the opening, the way the turtles look.
It's a cool reimagining.
Because their faces too, like their faces are very subtle.
Yeah.
And with the exception of Splinter, who I think looks really weird, I think
he looks kind of like a donkey.
Yeah, they all look, they're all so lifelike.
You get a real sense of character, and it's cool the way that they redesigned it all because like
because they now all don't. The Jim Henson movie, the '90s movie did this too. Like they all had different faces, now, which I thought was really cool. But this too, like they all have different body structures.
Yeah.
They all have different stuff, and
it fits their characters too. Raphael's like hitting the iron.
Raphael is massive. Donnie's got all the gadgets, and once again, they're a little too much because there's no way he would not have lost all that stuff, especially when he's sliding on his shell with stuff in his shell. But it's a good idea. It's a great idea.
But back to the Shredder. The thing is, for all of you Turtles fans who were following the movie, obviously William Fichtner was supposed to be the Shredder. He signed on for 3 movies. He said in an interview, "I'm playing the Shredder."
Right.
And then obviously fanboys lost their minds about it, and a couple months later, they were reshooting material for the film.
Didn't
that
they
was
push it back
secret.
because of that too?
Yeah, it got pushed back, and this was supposed to come out Christmas of last year. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, no, I remember it was supposed to come out a lot earlier.
Yeah, so, and they put in some Asian guy to play the Shredder.
Granted, now this is a good way to segue into my one con. He's some Asian guy. Now, he's obviously supposed to be Oroku Saki, but they never address him by name. He's always just the Shredder.
And, like, it's less dumb, I think, to have a characterless Asian guy than having...
It's less dumb or more dumb?
It's less dumb. Because at least you have...
The Shredder?
At least you have an Asian Shredder.
Yeah.
Instead of this character they made up, you know, for absolutely
because his
no
name
reason.
is Eric Sachs, and we call him Ball Sachs because that's just a hilarious last name. And that sounded way too much like Oroku Saki to
and
not...
clearly it was.
To not be, yeah. And that's my con. My con is the way they modified not just the characters, but the origin. Now, I'm not one for 100% adaptation, sticking to it. Like, I am fine with the Mandarin thing in Iron Man 3. That's a whole other discussion. I'm okay with, like, well, Scott Pilgrim is one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite movies, and they managed to cram 8, is it 8 or 7? Whatever.
It's 8. A
bunch of books into one movie and get most of the important stuff. So I'm not really hard when it comes to adaptation, but if you were to change, like, Spider-Man's origin story, like the way they retconned it in Spider-Man 3, it cheapens things. And the same thing happens here. I think the Ninja Turtles have a very good origin story because there's that tension between Shredder and the Foot Clan and the Turtles because of whether or not Splinter is Yoshi... I'm about to say Yoshimitsu. Wouldn't that be something? If Splinter is Hamato Yoshi or
Hamato Yoshi,
whatever, it doesn't matter.
There's
whether Shredder's got something against Splinter or Splinter has something against Shredder.
There's always something that ties them together.
I like that. And when that fight happens to them, there is literally nothing between them. Shredder is talking like they should have something between them, but there's nothing. And it's a really, really kick-ass fight scene between Shredder and Splinter. And sure, it looks cool. It's well choreographed.
But you don't have that.
Yeah, and what makes it
not
worse
personal.
is that you know it should be there. And speaking of the origin, this leads to I'm kind of playing off. I'm kind of stealing for another con. There's a lot of martial arts bullshit in this movie. Now I used to do martial arts. There's no way the Shredder could pull off the acrobats that he does with this robot suit, even if it gave him enhanced agility, even if it allowed him to maybe like jump higher, work like the Iron Man suit. It still weighs at least 50 pounds.
Well, that's the thing, like...
And there's no way... It would mess up his center of balance.
It wasn't a retread of, like, the Wolverine with the Silver Samurai armor, because that's what we all thought it was going to be. It's much smaller.
And it works. I think it works for this movie.
Yeah, because they upscaled the...
That's not necessarily a detractor from the movie, but what is once again into the origin, Splinter... Like in the original, he was a rat, got mutated, became humanoid, and he taught himself ninjutsu. He finds a book of ninjutsu in the sewer, of course. Learns it himself, and then teaches his sons how to do it. You can't get that good at any sort of martial arts.
Engage 5 actually trained.
You could learn it.
Yeah.
You could learn. I know people who have learned martial arts just by reading it, but you can't be that good, especially when they've had no contact with like anything their whole life.
Yeah.
You can't go from being humanoid rat to the best goddamn martial artist like ever.
Well,
that simply.
You know what? And it's not.
And also, why are they younger than he is? Like I also don't understand that.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
I don't even want to call myself like a purist as far as the origin story goes, because I don't think that's fair to this movie, because every single version of the Turtles has been different.
Yeah,
the original comic is different from the TV show.
I think it's actually better. I think it's a better origin story when they do it as he was a human first and then gets turned into a rat.
I still think the IDW comic is the best.
I think the IDW is probably the definitive origin.
It's the best because it's so clever.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah.
Like back to the character stuff, okay?
Right.
Which it's good as a Turtle fan. We get to see, Raph and Leo are bickering. Mikey's funny. Donnie builds stuff,
Right.
That's all there. But they reintroduced the whole world in a different way, in a way we hadn't seen before, but they didn't reintroduce them character-wise. They kind of assume that we know who they are. Therefore, nobody has a story arc.
Yeah, right.
None of the characters have character arcs.
I was worried about this movie that we were gonna get the Raph Leo story arc that we got in
the bicker.
Yeah, in the original Ninja Turtles in the '90s one, and then again in TMNT. I was hoping that they'd go something like the IDW comic, like they hint at this thing about Donnie and Leo. Donnie and Leo have anything because Donnie's smart, Leo's the leader. They kind of butt heads every now and then. I thought that's a great idea. I was worried we're gonna get the Raph and Leo story arc. We didn't. I would rather they retreaded that than not do anything at all.
We get a little bit of it, but at the same time, it's just like
it's real weak.
They get back to the sewer and Raph's like, I'm going on my own, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Never brings it up again.
Yeah.
Never brings it up again. So it's just like, I mean, there's what you mentioned. There's no Hamato Yoshi in the whole movie. At all. There's no mention of Orokosaki, even though I guess he's there.
Which is weird too, because the Shredder has he's covered in
scars and stuff.
Just because.
So it's like
because he's a ninja guy.
Yeah, it's like they just didn't bring anything. They tried to tie the characters together as much as they could. April's way more tied into the Turtles origin story, which is cool. I like that.
Most of the new versions, she's always been tied closer into them, but
there's nothing tying the villains together to the Turtles, and there's nothing tying the two villains together.
Modifying source material is fine when it benefits what you're doing. Yeah. When it benefits, if something works better in a visual medium than it did in a comic book, well, comics are a visual medium, but I mean like a movie, something that has momentum, movement, like Wolverine's costume on screen, that wouldn't have worked for the first couple of years of comic book movies, now it does. Some things in source material don't work on film. And if you change it for the benefit of your film or whatever you're doing, okay, fans are still gonna bitch. It's okay. None of the modifications to the storyline helped it. In fact, they made it worse.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, fans complained about them not having Teenage Mutant in the title.
Yeah.
They added it.
Yeah.
Fans complained about not having Hirokosaki. They added Hirokosaki.
It would have been bad, like, the way they handled the characters, the way they handled the origin, would have been bad, still is bad, even if you didn't know anything about the Turtles.
Yeah.
If you do know, it makes it even worse because you know something's missing.
So it kind of half-assed, like, reimagining it and then sucking up to the fans in like a weird halfway point to where some of it's there. You get Teenage Mutant back in the title. They're not aliens.
I honestly, when I first saw it being just Ninja Turtles, I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like
it doesn't matter. Like
they've never called it that, and also they don't have to be teenagers anymore.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Like they never have seemed like teenagers, and that's the same thing in this one. Michelangelo's the only one who actually seems like a teenager.
They talk like 30-year-olds who try to talk like teenagers and don't really know how teenagers act.
Yeah. They're more like they're like mid-20s. It's kind of weird how the way the film is paced, even though I just mentioned it's paced well and it's pretty compact.
Because it goes by fast, but...
Yeah, it's pretty much a little bit
That's me trying to snap.
It's pretty much a little bit of origin story with April, and then once the Turtles are introduced, there's about 4 main action beats, and they all happen pretty much right after.
It's got what I like to call like Transformers 3 syndrome.
Yeah.
Which is where most of the action, well, I guess all the Transformers movies really, most of the action is just a big ass climax.
Yeah.
And granted, it's not the same way because they get attacked. I'm not spoiling anything they show in the trailers. They get attacked at their lair, and then Raph has to go save them. And most of the movie is pretty much from that point, and it's not all action, but it's him going to try to save them. And
it did a good job of, it starts off following April, and then she kind of passes the torch to the Turtles, and then the story focuses on them pretty much till the end.
Which is great, because I was really worried, we were all worried that it was going to focus more on Will Arnett and Megan Fox than it was on the Turtles. And it doesn't. Sure, the first 20 minutes is mostly about April, but, you know, there's a good 15 minutes, 10 minutes in the 90s one where it was just...
It's like 5 minutes where they're not showing
maybe
up
not
yet.
that much, but there's still that opening.
Yeah.
I still think that the '90s version is the definitive Ninja Turtles in terms of character, tone, and story.
Yeah.
And I also think it's probably easily the best Ninja Turtle thing ever.
Yeah.
Because the Ninja Turtles are dumb. It's a goofy concept. It was made almost as a joke, kind of like something like Lobo and
Deadpool.
But in it, blew up into this phenomenon, and people hold it close to their hearts, like us. But I can't stand the '90s cartoon anymore. Mostly everything that's Ninja Turtles, besides the early 2000 show, the old comics and the new IDW comics, and the '90s movie, I really can't stand.
Well, when you think about it, the same thing happened to Batman.
Right.
Like the '60s show redefined it, made it extremely popular. And then it got brought back to its like darker roots, kind of. I don't think Ninja Turtles ever went back to as dark of the roots as it was.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
It never really went back there.
But they brought it back to be making it more like superhero-y than campy.
Most of the CG is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's never a point where I'm like, that looks weird. Splinter's design is a little strange, but he doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
I don't think he looks bad. His design was a little strange.
The way they pulled off his eyes, too, I thought was... They should have given him more pupils. They made him look too much like a rat, and they're not... They're humanoid. You can give him eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like pupils. Eye pupils.
But the Shredder had a great screen presence. Yeah. Didn't have any character.
He's kind of scary, too. Like, I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of scary. You
feel the punches.
He's got a million knives coming out of him.
Yeah.
He's got this really deep, booming robo voice.
Yeah. So...
And Megan Fox...
It was not passable.
The worst thing ever.
No.
I want to hit really quick on the humor, because I mentioned, I got this the first time I saw it.
This is a pro and con. This is a good segue.
There are some parts that are funny.
Some parts that are...
and some parts that just don't work, because there's like these two scenes where April goes on this long monologue about figuring out how the Turtles works. Because
she goes, yes, they were my pets, and I named them after Renaissance artists, and this and this. And
then her roommate's like, oh, no, you're crazy. And
I want to move back with you, Mom. And
it happens twice. Like, the first time, it's like, okay, that wasn't that funny. But then, when she figures out more, it's like the same scene, but she figures out more about the Turtles, you know it's coming. And it's still not funny!
And then she goes to Whoopi Goldberg, who plays her boss. Same thing. So, like, beat that into the ground.
Because, you
knew they were going to make one joke.
You feel sorry for her because I want to be taken serious as a journalist. She's honestly a really bad journalist. Like, she's got, like, the Lois Lane mentality of put myself in danger, but she doesn't get the things. Like, she takes a really shitty photograph of them when they run away, and she expects them to believe. It looks like whatever, running away.
Well, and that's what I think. If there was any improvisation between the turtles, I think they need to let more of that come through, because I think that would make it a lot funnier.
Yeah.
Because I think when you write buddy lines and stuff, it usually doesn't come across that natural.
Yeah. Because the way you write,
they're all such bros and stuff.
The way chemistry and dialogue is like written in something you do like in a novel is different than the way people act, because
it's gotta feel natural.
People are interacting.
It's gotta feel spontaneous.
People are interacting. They're moving around each other. They're engaging.
I feel like Noel Fisher, who played Michelangelo, I feel like he improvised a little bit more than anybody else. And I think the Will Arnett stuff that isn't funny was probably in the script, because he's a really funny guy.
Yeah.
And I think he probably improvised a couple of the funnier lines and stuff. That ended up working. But yeah, there's definitely lots of hit and miss with the comedy. I mean, it was genuinely funny. Like, I caught myself cracking up several times. It was just the most bottom line, just thinly written that you can do.
It's not a good movie, but I personally love it because I just like seeing these Turtles again. Yeah, I like seeing these Turtles again.
I think if you're a Turtles fan, you're gonna love it, but hate a lot of what they do. It's a lot of the same thing that they did with TMNT.
Right.
I love the movie, but there's so many points where you're like,
I think TMNT got the characters better than this.
Yeah.
But this is a lot.
It's reversed almost.
Yeah.
Like, TMNT got a lot of the character stuff right. The plot itself was really hokey.
The plot is better in this, but the character stuff is a little weaker.
Yeah. So, and it's not impossible to find a middle ground.
We gotta wrap it up though.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
if you're a Turtles fan,
you're gonna
this is the criteria. If you're a Turtles fan and you are okay or indifferent to the Michael Bay movies, Michael Bay movies in general, even though he didn't direct this, you probably will like this. If you hated, the Transformers movies and you don't really care about the Turtles, you might not enjoy this.
You'll probably hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. By any textbook definition, it's not great.
No.
But I love it. 100%. And I'm probably going to go see it a third time.
Yeah, I'll probably go see it again too.
Yeah. So, Cowabunga.
Cowabunga. This is the G-Man of EAP signing off. I will see you next time.
9.95.
There's a power in the feeling, a power in the sound.